resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor, in line with Rule 37 of the Rules of Procedure, I now give the floor to the representatives invited to this meeting. I first give the floor to the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Mr. President, thank you for giving me the floor. And as I am speaking for the first time during your presidency of the Security Council for this month, I'd like to congratulate you on your successful presidency. And I would like to thank your predecessor, His Excellency the Ambassador of Brazil, for his successful and distinguished presidency of the Council last month. Mr. President, we have listened to the briefings given by Mr. Geert Peterson and Ms. Joyce Misoya, and we would like to make the following points. The government of the Syrian Arab Republic is exerting great efforts to promote national reconciliation and to provide the conditions for a dignified life for its people and to rehabilitate infrastructure and basic services provided to the population and to rebuild what was destroyed by terrorism. We're working on securing the conditions necessary for a voluntary, safe, and dignified return by the refugees to their areas of residence. The Security Council's adoption of Resolution 2642 was an additional step taken towards improving and enhancing the delivery of humanitarian aid to those who need it, and towards offering support to basic services. It has also constituted an additional step towards expanding the reach of humanitarian activity, including through supporting early recovery projects, especially in the field of electric power, which is a vital sector and an indispensable one to other basic services sectors such as health, education, and water. Today, and almost 2 months since the Security Council's adoption of Resolution 2642, our delegation looks forward to the Council guaranteeing the full implementation of this resolution and to holding an informal and interactive dialogue that would review and follow the implementation of this resolution, including the progress achieved in the early recovery projects. Moreover, our delegation hopes that this mechanism would be able to identify the flaws and gaps that the implementation of this resolution witnesses, and it would be able to determine the reasons for them, and it hopes that countries would be able to take responsibility for their decisions in a manner that would be constructive in the implementation of this resolution. The government of Syria and its partners in the United Nations and its humanitarian agencies continue to face great difficulties and challenges in their efforts to raise the humanitarian situation and the living standards of the Syrian people because of the following. First, the countries of the West continue to politicize humanitarian and development work, and they continue to violate the guidelines that govern such work. Second, some donor states have disavowed their pledges to support humanitarian work and their obligations to offer the necessary funding to such work, including through the implementation of early recovery projects stipulated by Security Council Resolution 2642. The Syrian humanitarian response, until this very day, has only fulfilled a very small part of the funding that is required. Third, the United States and its Western allies continue to impose and expand unilateral coercive measures that are inhumane and are illegitimate and which cause untold suffering among the Syrian people because of a severe shortage in food and in medicine and in fuel and other basic supplies that affect all aspects of the Syrian people's lives. Number 4. The U.S. occupying forces continue to plunder the wealth of the Syrian people, including wheat, oil, gas, and cotton. $66,000 barrels a day of Syrian oil are stolen daily. And over the past few days, more than 500 trucks laden with stolen Syrian oil left Syria to American bases in Iraq. Mr. President, the government of the Syrian Arab Republic, and out of its concern to make sure that humanitarian aid reaches those that need it throughout Syria without any discrimination, our government has offered all facilitations to the United Nations to improve and to enhance the delivery of humanitarian aid. However, the terrorist organizations that are rampant in northwestern Syria and those who support it continue to obstruct our efforts to deliver this aid. Since Resolution 2642 was adopted and until today, international attention remained focused on the cross-border mechanism. Over 1,000 trucks have crossed the borders. In order to justify the continuation of this mechanism and to guarantee the continued flow of supplies to the terrorist organizations in that area. Mr. President, landmines and exploding ammunition left behind by the terrorist organizations continue to pose a grave threat to the lives of Syrians, especially children. The lack of achievement in the removal of these landmines and exploding ammunitions has prevented Syrians from returning to their homes, to their farms, to their jobs and schools. Moreover, they continue to obstruct the delivery of vital humanitarian aid. According to the Secretary General's report, Syria is one of the countries with the highest reported number of direct victims of landmines and exploding ammunition in the world. My delegation calls on the United Nations to give this issue the attention and importance it deserves, and to move from raising awareness of the dangers of these landmines and explosives to drawing up a comprehensive plan for field work within a clear time frame to clear all areas in Syria of these landmines and explosive ammunition, and in a manner that would help save the lives of Syrians and provide the necessary conditions for the safe return of displaced persons and refugees to their homes so that they are able to live a normal life here. I would like to note that the government of Syria has succeeded, thanks to its own efforts and thanks to the support of its allies and friends, has succeeded in resettling over 2,400,000 Syrian citizens to their places of permanent residence. Mr. President, the Russian Federation and the Islamic Republic of Iran in the Tehran summit of the 19th of July 2022, they renewed their firm commitment to Syria's sovereignty and independence and its territorial integrity and unity, and to the goals and purposes of the United Nations Charter. They reiterated their rejection of secessionist plots that aim to undermine the sovereignty of Syria. They condemned the repeated Israeli aggressions. Moreover, the Tehran summit also saw an expression of the determination to continue working to combat terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. The summit reiterated that the only solution in Syria is through a political process that is led and owned by Syrians and facilitated by the United Nations. Mr. President, putting an end to the illegitimate foreign presence in Syrian territories and all the connected terrorist organizations and secessionist militias, putting an end to the repeated Israeli attacks, the systematic attacks against the sovereignty of Syria, putting an end immediately and unconditionally to the policies of economic terrorism and collective punishment imposed by the United States of America and the European Union on the Syrian people, are the only way to guarantee respect for the sovereignty of Syria, its independence, and its territorial unity and integrity. It is the only way to eliminate the remnants of terrorist organizations and related entities and groupings. It is the only way to put an end to all forms of demographic change and eviction, and it is the only way to give Syrians back their national economic resources. Syria demands the states that sponsor armed groups and separatist militias that plunder Syrian wealth. We demand that they pay reparations to the Syrian people, because plundering these national resources is a violation of international law. Mr. President, before I end my statement, I would like to respond to the representative of the United States of America and what he said, as he attempted to justify the attacks that were launched by his country's forces in Deir ez-Zor governorate. I'd like to clarify to the distinguished members of the Security Council that the U.S. forces are illegally present in Syrian territory without the request or consent of the government of the Syrian Arab Republic. Therefore, their presence is illegal, and this in itself is a blatant violation of the Charter of the United Nations and international law and relevant Security Council resolutions, which underline the need to respect the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Syria. The justification made by the representative of the U.S. occupying forces and using the excuse of Article 51 of the Charter and what he called the right to self-defense is an attempt at legal misguidance and is politically out of line. This U.S. justification can be described by the Arab saying, which is an excuse is more horrendous than the actual act. I thank you, Mr. President.